Hi everybody, Adam Steele here, and today is a Reaper video looking at how I customize Reaper to do certain little things that just make it work faster for me. I'm not the kind of guy that makes it all pretty, makes it all look all, like visually appealing. I like it to look the way it's supposed to look, but there are things that make it work faster the way that I want it to work faster, and it's all perfectly customizable. And today I'm going to show you exactly what it is that I do. Before that, quickly, this video is brought to you by us with our ultimate Reaper guide through ProMix Academy. If you want to know the absolute ins and outs of everything to do with production, effects, how to get things set up right, if something like your monitoring isn't working, why that might be, some of the ways that the different production styles can be achieved inside Reaper is all there, and it's available for you in the description below. Let's go. Okay, so I've opened up Reaper. It looks fairly stock, but there are quite a few little things under the hood that I have changed to suit me. So let's begin. First place to look is at the top right corner where it says all this 44.1K, 24-bit, blah, 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 blah. That's the settings. That's a shortcut. Click on that. That'll bring up all these settings. So the first thing to do is make sure that your interface is selected and all your inputs and outputs are selected. That's fairly generic. Now, let's go through these quickly because there are a few things that I change. Mostly I don't, honestly. First thing is startup settings. Open projects on startup. I get really annoyed when Reaper brings up the last project I was working on because I do a lot of different things in Reaper, so I don't want that. So I just changed that to open projects on startup, new project. And even if I don't need a new project, it's just, it loads a blank canvas super quick. So then I can choose from there what project I want to open, or if I do need a new project, there it is. Nice and quick. I like it easy. In paths, what I can do is, the next thing is choose a default recording path. That way, if I am really inspired and just start recording, just put up a track and forget to save the project somewhere, it saves all of my kind of loose files in one spot. Now, I've changed mine to be in my Dropbox. That way, if I accidentally record files that are not in a specific system, that are not folderized properly, they still get uploaded to my Dropbox. So if I'm at home editing on my other computer and I've got a crucial project, but like an idiot, I started recording before we hit save, I'm going to have those files somewhere that I know where they are and not just in your My Documents folder somewhere. So that's the next thing. Under project, this is a big one. I make sure that I'm saving loads of backups. So when overwriting project file, rename the old file to rpp.back, yes. Keep multiple versions every 15 minutes, that's what I do. And save to timestamped file in project directory. And that way, I get loads and loads of backup files. They're not that big file-wise, and it means that if I made a mistake an hour ago and I've hit save 20 times since, I'm not screwed. I can go back and I can find the backup file that is, it's just a project. It's not all the WAV files you've recorded. It's just the little Reaper file, which means that I can go back to that point, find the thing I accidentally deleted, and using some project tabs and a bit of cleverness, I can then resurrect that and bring it back into the new project. And hallelujah, there we are, done. Over in the audio tab here, there are a couple of things I like to change. The input and output channel name, aliasing and remapping. Now, I've not done the input channels because I've not long rewired the entire studio and I need to settle on what gear I'm actually using. But what I can do is tick input name aliasing, hit the edit here, and what I can do is this brings up a list of, this is what my RME card tells me that every track is called. They are literal. They are ADAT1 through ADAT32 and AES left, right, SPDIF left, right. that's perfectly functional, but what if I want to know what have I got plugged into those? So I could name channel 1, say Octopre 1 or ASP880 channel 1. That way, when I bring up a record channel, say in the background, and I go to input, I've got to hit OK and listen apply. This will now be ASP880-1. That renames all of these so that I can know exactly which one I've picked and I'm not doubting myself and umming and ahhing. That's a nice thing I can do. Now, the other thing that I have to do is with the output, I've not changed the names, but what I have done is I've switched round the SPDIF with ADAT1 and 2. And the reason for that is that now the SPDIF is channel 1 and 2. Reaper has actually just swapped them round. And that means that the monitoring effects, that is to say that are on the master out, are processed properly. Monitoring effects is something else that we'll look at. So if I go to view monitoring effects, that will bring a couple of things up. I've got Slate's VSX, which is currently disabled. I've got Sonarworks reference 4 here, which is also disabled because I've just got Sonarworks reference 5, which I'm going to put in here right now, actually. Let's do that. Let's add in Sound ID, which is what it's called, Sound ID reference. And there's a new version, fine. So I can now set that up appropriately with something that I made this week, which is the correction profile for this room and those speakers. And that will now on the monitor out correct what I'm hearing without being on any particular project and without running the risk of me accidentally rendering a file with this on the output and messing up somebody's day. So there's that. And I've also got Restream here. That's probably something you don't need to do, but it sends out what you would hear to the other computer for live streaming before the Sonarworks or VSX or any other kind of correction. So that's in there as a customization that I like to do. Now in the plugins setup, I do make sure that any folders are in this VST bar up top here. So that any VST plugins, sometimes plugins get installed to a Steinberg folder by default, which is a bit silly. Either you can install them and make sure they go in the right folder, or you can add extra folders in here and hit the rescan button, and that will add those to the list of plugins that you can find in Reaper. There's also the tick box, which I think is now enabled by default, enable ARA for VST3 plugins, which means that Melodyne works a whole ton faster. There's Control and OSC, so I've got a web browser set up in here as well, which is a whole different video that I did a while back. You can check that out, but that means that my phone or tablet or even laptop can, on the network in here from any of the other rooms, control things like volumes, start, stop, record, etc. without me being physically at the desk. If that's something you're interested in, check out that video, Reaper Remote Control. I'm going to hit OK there because that's that section done. Now, in terms of customizing, there are a few things here that I like but don't like. Now, if you look at the track that I've made here, the volume is on a little knob. I'm not a fan of that. In older versions of Reaper, that was a slider. And so I'm going to use the theme adjuster. So if I go into Options, Themes, Theme Adjuster, then there are several tabs in here that you can change pretty much whatever you like visually. So I can change the overall brightness and darkness. So if you want something to be brighter or if you want it to not hurt your eyes so much, the saturation and tint controls that are all in there could be particularly useful if you've got particular color blindness. I don't know, maybe that helps. But for me, the track control panel is a pretty interesting thing. I can show and hide different things in here so that the screen isn't particularly cluttered. Where it says volume size, it says knob right there. I'm going to change that to 100, 130. There we go. And I've now got a big slider there that I can slide, which is how I like to work with volume. because that way, if I show the pan, let's unhide that. Now the pan is on the knob, left and right. And that means that I can see the pan as a knob, which makes sense to me because left and right. That is hidden only because when the mixer is open, the guys from Reaper figure, oh, you don't need it twice. I like things not to move, so I don't tend to have that hidden in there. Even say the input mode for recording, the moment by default in Reaper, it goes away when the track isn't armed. I'm going to unhide that because that was hidden if the track was not armed. So input and record mode, I'm going to unhide those. So now I can choose the input on those tracks at any time, which means I can have the track ready to be record monitored and choose the input before I hit record, which should save me personally some headaches the way that I like to work. The mixer control panel has some interesting settings in here as well. There are different size selections if you want to make things bigger and smaller. I don't, I leave it as normal, but you can. The one that I like to change is show multiple row mixer when size permits. So what that does currently, I'm just going to make the mixer a little bigger. And if I just hit Control and T a lot, which is new track, you'll see when I hit the end with new tracks, suddenly they bunch up and they double up if the mixer's big enough. I don't like that. Yes, you can see more on screen. It doesn't work with the way that my brain works. I learn on traditional analog desks, I just want to see one big long strip. So I get this button here and I untick it. And now I get that single row back. And now I can see all my effects, inserts and sends on the mixer. I do have to scroll a little if I've got 70 or 100 or 200 tracks, but so be it because that's something I like to do. While we're talking about the mixer, I'm going to close this down. And if we've got folders going on, which I do a lot of the time, I work in folders a lot. Let's say I put these tracks in a folder. There's a little button here that's folder and let's say blah, blah, blah. So this folder, I can hide everything in that folder. Doesn't turn them off, it just collapses that down on the mixer so that everything just gets out of the way. So you now see the track numbers go 1, 2, 14. That's because everything from 3 to 13 was inside that folder. To enable that, on the master, on the mixer on the left, I'm going to right click and it gives me a list of things I can do. And somewhere in the middle is clickable icon for folder tracks to show and hide children. I make sure that's ticked. And that means that I get this little button that can collapse things down. And you can see that this little button here has a triangle that points down when that folder is closed down. And when I click it, that points to the right and we can see that that's actually raised up all of these folders by one little notch, all these tracks by one little notch. So we know that that's all there. There are only a few more things that I like to add into Reaper. One of them is I'm just going to drop something in here. Just a track. Now you'll see this is purple. I've done that. And the way that I've done that, that's spectral peaks. Spectral peaks are brilliant. Whatever I've added in here looks like it's very bassy. I can tell that from the colours. If there's sibilance in there, it comes out bright blue. If there's a real low thing, it comes out kind of a dark purple. There are different sound frequency levels that come out different colours, and that helps me to edit super fast. And so I go to View, Peaks Display Settings, and I change display mode from peaks to spectral peaks. And I tend to turn the display gain up a little as well, so that even when things look really loud, I'm not clipping. It makes me think in a more analog way. The shortcut to that, if you're doing that in the middle of a project, is hold Shift and then just the up and the down arrows will do that for all your tracks. So they look bigger, but they don't sound bigger, which means you can have quite quiet things in your track and you can see them enough to be aware they're there, to edit them properly and not cause yourself all sorts of headaches. And the other two things that I like to do, because I like to work with things like regions a lot, is I have shortcuts that I've added to select things. So I've clicked on this thing. If I want this particular thing that I've added to be the selection for time, start and finish, I can hit Shift and Z, and that comes up as highlighted. How did I do that? Now that's an action. Once I've selected something, you can select anything by just dragging on the top bar, but that's not very precise. If I click on an item, if I right click on the ruler where the time is at the top, there is a button here which is set selection to items. Now I remap that to Shift and Z. I think I got that from Cubase. So in the actions menu at the top, I show action list, and then I go set selection, start typing that to items. Now there's a list here because the filter that I typed in shrinks the huge list down of everything you can possibly do in Reaper. And do have a poke around in there, see if there's anything that you'd like to have that could speed up the way you work. And in this list, all that's left is these things I don't need and set time selection to items. Now, I've added this shortcut, so let's just delete that quickly. And I could just double click on this from the action list and that would do the thing I've selected. If it's something really rare that I only want to do once, don't need a key shortcut for, you can just double click something. But I use that a lot. So I hit add, and then it asks me type a key or move a controller. So if you want to add this to a joystick or something crazy, you can do that. But I hit Shift and Z or Z. And that has now bestowed that shortcut upon this action. Now, if I hit run, that'll do the thing, or just close this window down, and that is then done. I do that all the time. That means I can select this, or that, or this, or that. And quite often I use this to do things like I'll select that, and then I'll make a region out of it, which is create region from selection. And so I can now say, you that I've selected, you are this region, you're this region, you're that region. And that can go bang, 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 super quick. The last thing that I will do that saves me a lot of time is let's just split this audio file, delete that bit, and that was a mistake. And let's say I've got an hour's worth of content to the right-hand side. I don't want to have to try and select everything to move it. There might be tempo maps, there might be all sorts of headache. A quick way to just do that, what I call the cut and shut, or in video they call it the ripple delete, is to select the area and then right click on here, and there is something that is remove contents of selection, moving later items. And that does exactly what it says. It moves everything, timestamps, markers, time signatures, the lot just moves it. So if I click that, look, gone. That just cut that whole section out. And in the actions menu again, let's just put in removing later. And that's in brackets, so that might not. Oh, moving later items. There it is, time selection, remove contents of time selection. Or you can do the opposite of insert empty space. So I could do that. I don't tend to use that often, so I don't have it bound to a key, but it's there. But I did the same. You could delete this and then add and then Alt and Z. It might ask you if there's something already on a keystroke. This already is used by a keystroke. Do you want to replace? And whatever it was that I replaced wasn't something that I thought I would ever use. So I just hit yes, don't need this, thanks. And that, especially doing things like voiceover editing or podcast editing, has saved me hours of time. Because if I've gone back and the edit notes that I've had from somebody has been, this is all great apart from this bit in the middle. Can you just remove a few words that this guy said? Oh, now I've got to move everything. No, I can just go that, delete, Alt and Z. So there you go. That is how I customize Reaper. Oh, and one last fun thing. I talked about the theme adjuster. If I want to adjust this so that I feel like I'm watching something from Star Trek, I can go to themes, and I downloaded the MVH Engage. So now I'm in Star Trek and everything looks a bit like LCARS. So not something I would usually do, but it's there. Back to me. Hope you found this useful. Hopefully some of this will save you some time as well, like it has for me. Even if none of this was particularly relevant to what you do, hopefully you'll have seen something that gives you an idea of some way you would like things to be customized for you. In which case, I hope that gives you what you were looking for. Customization is such a big thing in Reaper. I like to keep it, like you've seen, relatively close to the stock settings, but with just small changes. You can completely change everything, or you can just find those little things that you liked in different software, or ideas that you have that make it work for you. If this was great, hit the like button. If not, let us know in the comments. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. We are happy to answer wherever possible. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, blah, 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 all that stuff. I'm Adam Steele, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Pole Studios. See you there.